Hey guys, so we're going to talk about common ancestry. So this chart you can take some time to look at. It has summarizing some features between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, as well as mitochondria and chloroplast. And some things you might notice are some similarities between prokaryotes and mitochondria and chloroplast. Okay, so this gets at the idea of where the ancestor is for these mitochondria and chloroplasts. Okay, and we can think about, well, why would prokaryotes have a lot of similarities to mitochondria and chloroplasts? So the thought behind this is that what could be an explanation for this is something called endosymbiotic theory or endosymbiosis, where we originally had a prokaryotic cell and then another prokaryotic cell, and then endosymbiosis, where that cell is engulfed by the other cell, so that now we have a cell that has other cells inside of it, and that could have been our precursor for our chloroplasts and our mitochondria. Okay, this is a theory about where these chloroplasts came from. So evidence for a common ancestor for eukaryotes, we have to think about, well, what do all eukaryotes have in common? They have linear DNA, histones, telomeres, large genome. They process RNA in the same way, with those introns and exons being moved. And then they have various organelles that are all the same no matter what type of eukaryote it is. So the idea then could be that all of these traits, because they're so similar, are from a common ancestor that they shared in the past. Okay, so scientists can help visualize this evolutionary path and showing how organisms are related to each other by using different ways to categorize them. We can use cladograms. Okay, so cladograms are basically showing characteristics that are shared between different organisms, and they're just a way to organize those organisms based on their traits that are shared. Okay, an important thing to note is that these, though, do not take into account time or how similar different organisms are. It's just a way to organize and group them. It does have the idea of a common ancestor, and that can be more of a hypothesis because it's only based on characteristics, so that we can hypothesize a common ancestor shared those characteristics in the past, but we don't have any sort of similarity such as DNA sequence involved in cladograms. The outgroup is going to be what is called the least closely related organism in that cladogram. Lungfish here is the outgroup. And then the derived characteristics are kind of on this backbone part of our cladogram. These are the characteristics that they share in common. So all of these are eukaryotes. Everything except the fish are vertebrates. So that's how it's organized. On this other one, the derived characteristics are shown here. We can also have the common ancestors identified at a node. So these nodes are also present. Okay, so we can also use phylogenetic trees to show information, to show how organisms are related to each other. And this is a similar representation, just instead it's taking into account things such as more information, such as behaviors, physical traits, DNA similarities, and so on. So we can get information. Also on these, generally the length of the line is going to denote how similar things are. Yeah, so if we just look at features, it's going to be give us an idea, but this taking into account more information like DNA gives us a more accurate representation. Okay, so here's an example of a phylogenetic tree based on species that are on an island. So maybe if we have one island, we have that one species. And then because of changes to that island, we now have two different islands. So they have that common ancestor, which would be at this node back here. And then we now have speciation, where we have two different species because they're in two different locations. And then this larger island splits into B and C. So that's shown here. And then maybe we have some sort of barrier like the mountains here, which is why C and D are going to branch off. And then we can show C, these organisms left, so C and E are going to be similar. So we can just show how organisms are related based on how we put them on these phylogenetic trees. Sometimes you'll see them represented with this like Y-shaped. Sometimes it'll be more like this kind of football goal-shaped structure, but it's the same idea. But on all of these, you want to follow back to the common ancestor that they share when you're interpreting them. So like here, we want to go all the way back to A and B. Their common ancestors where they connect. Okay, in class, we're going to look at several examples of these and interpret them, but I wanted you to get an idea of the basics before we started class. But anyway, I hope that was a good overview of phylogeny or phylogenetics and common ancestors. Bye, guys.